Images speak. Long before most people could read, they could see. For most of human history, literacy was rare. Words belonged to priests, scribes, officials, the few. But images belonged to everyone. On cave walls, on pottery, on temple reliefs, on flags, on coins, on stained glass. Art does something. It turns invisible ideas into visible form. And once an idea becomes visible, it can travel. Across language, across time, across the boundaries of class and education. Art communicates. Today, it has been suggested that we see more images in a single day than a medieval person might have seen in an entire lifetime. Screens flicker constantly. Advertisements compete for attention. Images scroll past without pause. We are saturated. But in the medieval world, images were rare. And rarity gives power. When colored light flooded through stained glass, when a carved figure loomed above a cathedral door, when a painted scene appeared in candlelight, it carried awe. It carried authority. Images were not background noise. They were events. Imagine living in a world where you cannot read. No books, no newspapers, no phones, no scrolling. And yet you still need to understand the biggest questions. Who are we? What is good? What is evil? What happens after we die? In the Middle Ages, cathedrals became machines for meaning and learning. Stained glass windows glowed with stories, not as decoration, but as instruction. One famous example is the Tree of Jesse at Chartres Cathedral, a branching genealogy that visually links Jesse to David and forward to Christ. You didn't need to read Latin. You could see lineage. You could see miracles. You could see heaven and hell carved above the doors. Images gave people a shared mental world, a shared story. Art wasn't an accessory to religion. It was one of the ways religion became imaginable. But sometimes, art does not illustrate a story. It creates an experience. In Washington, D.C., the Vietnam Veterans Memorial cuts into the earth like a wound. Designed in 1982 by Maya Lin, it does not glorify war. It does not show heroic statues charging forward. It's a black wall, polished granite, nearly 60,000 names. As you walk along it, the wall grows taller, the names multiply, and slowly, your reflection appears beside the names. You see yourself among the dead. That is communication. No speech, no slogan, just names. People touch the wall. They trace letters with their fingers. They leave flowers. They leave boots. They leave notes. The memorial does not tell you what to think, it makes you feel. And yet, when it was first proposed, it became deeply controversial. Maya Lin wanted to create a memorial that honored the dead without taking a political position on the war itself. She hoped to create something that might unite a divided nation, a place that acknowledged loss without reopening the arguments of the Vietnam War. But ironically, the very effort to avoid politics ignited a national political firestorm. Some critics called it a black gash of shame. They wanted statues, heroism, flags, glory. But Maya Lin did not want to celebrate war. She wanted to remember the dead. She tried to avoid politics, and in doing so, she discovered something profound. Memory itself is political. Art here is not decoration. It's architecture for grief. Sometimes art doesn't teach doctrine. Sometimes it teaches empathy. Consider the photograph, Tomoko in Her Bath, by W. Eugene Smith. A mother bathes her daughter, born with severe deformities caused by mercury poisoning, the result of industrial pollution in Minamata, Japan. At first, the image shocks us. When we first look at the photograph, many viewers are struck by Tomoko's fragile and distorted body. But her mother does not see what we see. She sees her child. In the face of such tragedy, she gazes at her with quiet tenderness and unconditional love. The mother's hands, the mother's gaze, the gentleness that refuses to disappear even inside tragedy. Statistics can tell us how many died, but numbers rarely make us feel anything. A photograph can. And suddenly, the image becomes something unexpected. Beautiful. Years later, Tomoko's family asked that the photograph no longer be widely reproduced, choosing dignity over symbolism. And sometimes, art does something even more direct. It bears witness. In the 20th century, Pablo Picasso painted Guernica after the bombing of the Basque town of Guernica during the Spanish Civil War. The painting does not show the event realistically, but its fractured bodies and screaming animals communicate the terror of war instantly. In 1816, a French naval ship ran aground off the coast of West Africa. Incompetence, political favoritism, panic. The lifeboats carried the captain and the privileged. 150 were abandoned on a makeshift raft. They drifted for 13 days. Only 15 survived. They endured thirst, madness, violence. They resorted to cannibalism. It was a national scandal. The painter Theodore Géricault turned this catastrophe into The Raft of the Medusa, a painting so large it feels like an event. He did not rely on imagination alone. He interviewed survivors of the raft. He built a full-scale model of the raft in his studio. He studied corpses to understand how death alters the human form. He wanted the truth of it. This wasn't painted to be pretty. It was painted to accuse. Bodies pile into a pyramid of desperation. Hope becomes a tiny signal, a ship barely visible on the horizon. Art becomes a form of public testimony, a way of saying, "Look, do not look away." Images don't just reflect the world, they teach us what to admire, what to fear, what to mourn, what to accept. A paragraph can be argued with. An image can slip past your defenses. It can brand itself into memory. That is art's strange power. It can carry meaning into people who didn't ask for it. It can turn private pain into public knowledge. It turns invisible ideas into something we can see. So what does art do once it exists? It teaches. It creates experience. It builds empathy. It bears witness. The cave hand once said, "I was here." But art soon learned to say more. This happened. This matters. This is what it felt like. Sometimes it even warns the future. And sometimes this must not happen again.